there's a part of the brain called the ventral striatum, that's the dopamine reward system. And whenever we have a positive, authentic interaction with somebody, our brain receives a reward. It makes us feel good, and it's dopamine that does that. And that is to encourage us to work together, because as humans, we don't have strong claws, teeth, etc. Our advantage is our brain and our ability to collaborate. We've got space stations, we've got cities, universities. No one person on their own can do that. It requires us to collaborate. And nature encourages us to do that by giving us a reward whenever we do collaborate. So collaboration, connection with other people is incredibly, incredibly important. And so the brain rule, number one, and we're going to go through 4 brain rules, is the brain is a social organ. And so often we forget that at the negotiating table. We sit down and start talking numbers and start talking deals, and we lost that human connection, and that's why so many negotiations go wrong. So I'm just interested, I've explained why I think a lot of negotiations go wrong, and we'll see online why that is the case as well. But I'm just really interested in the experiences you guys are facing. So if we could launch that next poll, please.
Okay, this one's going live, and I urge everyone to look at all the answers.
Okay.
There's a few on this one. I think people are taking my word and having a little look.
Okay, so I believe we can make multiple choices in this one.
Okay, the percentages
I'm not sure, but
there's movement afoot. This is good.
Okay.
I'll give it a few more seconds, but so far negotiating with the wrong person, e.g. not the decision maker, is in the lead.
Great, and it looks like I can see the polls now. Giving away too many concessions.
That's true. And then possibly around the same of lack of self-confidence and emotions taking over would be the third.
Okay, getting beaten down on price. I'm just going to take a screenshot of that because that's really, really interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, so listen, we're going to tackle all those issues as we go through the material. So, as I said, we're going to look at 4 brain rules, why negotiation goes wrong. And then we're going to look at 5 steps that will hopefully put you in the driving seat in any negotiation. And as I said, we're literally presenting in this hour and 15 minutes the highlights of what we normally cover in a 2 to 3 day program. But even so, this will give you some pretty strong things to go away and practice. We've got a negotiating funnel, and there are 5 stages here. Prepare, discuss, test the option, trade, and then we close. And the difference between testing and trading is, in the testing, I might say, Jess, I've got some apples, you've got some oranges, shall we trade? That's very non-specific. I haven't mentioned numbers, it's more a principle. In the trading phase, I'm actually adding the numbers. So look, if you give me 5 oranges, I'll give you 6 apples. How does that sound? And then you can make a counter proposal. So we'll discover why it's very important that we separate those phases. The size of the discs in each of these phases represent how long you should spend in each phase. So the earlier phases are the most important. There should be a smooth progression. And that's what the blue line indicates smooth progression from one phase to the next in order, if at all possible. And there will be a bit of backtracking necessary as new information comes to the table, but we need to minimize that if possible. So if those are the stages we should go through, I'd just like people to put in chat, if you could please, where normally, in your experience, people actually start in negotiation. So let's get you to have a look, please. And again, Jess, if you're able just to.
I'll just give it a second. Marie Christian said the trading. We've got a couple of voting there for the trading, and some even suggesting they go straight. People go straight to the close.
Yeah, sign this. I like it. Good strategy.
There's
most people are saying
test and trade.
Yeah, most people are around. The average is around the trade, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it does look like that. Definitely in the bottom three.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And so that's why so many negotiations fail, because we all those problems you mentioned, we don't go through those initial stages, which in many ways are the most important stages. So we're going to look at each of those phases in turn, spend a couple of minutes on them, and we're also going to look at some of the brain science behind negotiation. So in a virtual environment, structure is especially important, because when we're doing things by Zoom, and for me, doing this virtually as well, there's much more cognitive load on my brain. I need to think much more because I can't see you. So I'm having to read between the lines, fill in the cues that would have been there face to face when I look at my audience, see if they understand. And it's exactly the same when you negotiate virtually. So I've done a little bit of research into some of the issues very recently since coronavirus with remote negotiation, and there's a lot you can read up yourself. There's some research by Imperial College, Harvard Business School, and some of the issues with the remote negotiation via Zoom or whatever is there's less empathy, and we've explained how important that is. The brain is a social organ. More impasses happen in the negotiation. Trust is much easier to lose and much harder to build. The process is more costly. Win-win is less likely. We leave money on the table, so we don't enable the full scope of the negotiation, and we're much less likely to reach a deal than had we met face to face. So the first thing, you know, as we're lockdown is easing, can you actually meet face to face? It will ease your negotiation. If it's impossible, I will be giving you some tips how to overcome some of the obstacles that you might be facing. So we're going to look at the preparation stage, and there's some very important things to consider here. So one thing we need to understand is that under pressure, the thinking brain shuts down. And this was very apparent to me today before the webinar, because even though we'd practiced, had some dry runs, got to the office, and what do you know? We had cookie issues, so the software wouldn't load, and that's why we were late. And I could feel myself getting a little bit stressed out, and I knew, take some deep breaths, just carry on. And even the word for some people, negotiation, puts them under great pressure. Oh my God, a negotiation. And triggers something in the brain that we're going to look at in a minute. So that's why this stage is so important. We need to look at long-term and short-term objectives, discover common ground, and we've got all the possible tools to do that, for social media tools to find out a little bit about people. And one in particular survey was very interesting, and it suggested that if you can meet or even chat informally to the person you're negotiating with or the people, that can increase your chances of success from 55% to 90%. Yeah, very, very important. So the other thing to consider is, what is your plan B? If you don't have a plan B, you're likely to be sort of negotiated down and down and down. Very important to have an alternative if this doesn't work. And then the other key thing is tradables. And when we run these programs, we spend an awful lot of time on tradables. So the plus point, there is a plus point to virtual negotiation, which is because you're doing this in your own home, on the kitchen table or wherever by Zoom, you'll have your notes, your pricing, your strategy laid out in front of you that you can look at and refer to, that you wouldn't be able to under normal circumstances when you're face to face. So it's not all bad news when you're negotiating remotely. Just as an example of tradables, we've got quality, and they could be specifications, extra features or functionality, relationship, you're the sole supplier, the length of the relationship, delivery terms, payment terms, training, extras, insurance, penalties, contract terms. Anything in a contract term is a potential tradable. And when we go into companies and look at their tradables, we will find at least 200. And that sounds incredible, but this is one of the most important things for you to prepare. And in whatever sector we're in, if we're able to just dissect our product or service a little bit, we've got much more flexibility in what we offer. And don't forget that a tradable could be a non-tangible, like a referral or a testimonial. And the motto here is, the more tradables you have, the more flexibility you have at the negotiating table. So let's look a little bit about emotion versus logic. And clearly we make some decisions based on emotion, some decisions based on facts and information at the negotiating table and indeed elsewhere. And, you know, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, yeah, we should make them on facts, but often we do it on emotion. So I would like to find out where you feel the balance is to people. And again, we've got a poll here. Jess, if you could please launch that. So is decision-making based mainly on emotions or facts, or do you think, are you going to hedge your bets and call it 50-50? So if we could just see from the audience. And by the way, how many people have we got at the moment, Jess?
We've got 163 at the moment, which is just wonderful.
Okay.
One of the questions that popped up before, Tom, understanding now all these tradables, and it's mind-blowing to think just how many can exist without us necessarily realising, and the switch to more virtual negotiations, has that changed the definition of negotiation or just the way we do it? What's the relationship been there?
But sorry, Alex, was that a question about tradables or
no,
virtual?
Just that it's such a complex system that we can leverage to negotiate with so many tradables available. And then we talked earlier about the switching from, you know, the advantage of now when it's virtual, having all the information in front of us. But how is that actually, or has it impacted the definition of negotiation? The question posted in the chat was around the definition of negotiation. And has that changed when the rest of our world seems to be changing?
I wouldn't say it's changed the definition of negotiation. I wouldn't even say it's changed the process. But what it has changed is the way we behave. and we tend to jump into business straight away when we're virtual.